Dieu Han, a single mother, is gradually completing her small house with the help of kind-hearted people. While taking care of her son, Tom Han is also personally repairing the house, redoing the floor, repairing the handrails, and preparing to build a staircase so that she and her son have a safer place to live. While working, Han always gently encourages Tom to be well-behaved and eat well so that his mother can have peace of mind. Without complaining or giving up, Han quietly strives every day with the sole desire of having a stable home for her son. The story, though simple, is very captivating because it is the journey of a strong mother building a future for herself and her son. Throughout the time spent rebuilding the new house, Thon frequently visited and helped Han. He helped her complete the unfinished parts, sometimes repairing the roof, other times adding more planks. Whenever Tom cried, Thon would hold him in his arms, gently comforting him, showing genuine care like a family member. As for Don, that day he brought some freshly caught fish to Han. From a distance, he saw Thon inside the house with Han, and Don suddenly stopped. He turned to leave, afraid of disturbing their privacy, because he had seen Han and Thon talking quite intimately before, and felt a little awkward. But before Don could go far, Thon was about to go downstairs to cut bamboo for a trellis. Seeing Don standing outside, Thon called him back. Thon quickly went down the stairs, approached Don, and immediately understood what Don was thinking. He smiled kindly and explained that the last time Dan saw them being intimate was only when he was helping Han, and there was absolutely no romantic relationship involved. After saying that, Thon went back to work. Only then did Don feel relieved and went upstairs to help Han reinforce the stairs. He also brought some freshly caught fish as a gift for Han. Even though the amount wasn't much, it was still a token of his affection. Luckily, little Tom was fast asleep in the gently swaying hammock. Seeing they were short on food, Don suggested to Han that they go to the pond behind the landowner's house to catch some more fish to stock up. The two worked quietly together, worrying about their immediate meal while also thinking about how to provide a more stable life for Han's family in the future. They went to the pond to fish. At first, despite their best efforts, they only caught a few small fish and some snails. Both were engrossed in pulling in the net and checking the water, completely unaware that not far away, behind a thick clump of banana trees, a masked stranger had been silently watching their every move. Near noon, Han remembered her family's meal and asked to leave early to fry the fish Don had brought and prepare lunch. Don stayed behind alone, continuing to cast his net, hoping to catch some more food. Not long after, he pulled in a heavy haul, a very large fish. Dan was overjoyed and pulled with all his might to shore. But at that very moment, something terrible happened. From behind, a masked stranger suddenly rushed forward and shoved him forcefully. Dan lost his balance, slipped, and fell into the lake. The deep cold water caused him to panic and struggle desperately, nearly drowning. Upstairs, Han was frying fish when she heard a loud noise and a scream coming from the pond. Sensing something was wrong, she rushed out. Seeing Dan struggling in the water, Han didn't hesitate, immediately jumping into the pond and trying her best to pull him to shore. After getting Dan out, Han trembled and panicked, calling the landowner for help. The three of them helped Don back home to rest. Fortunately, after a while, Don gradually regained consciousness and was not in life-threatening danger. But while everyone was preoccupied with Don, no one knew that the masked stranger had secretly returned. He picked up little Tom, who was sleeping soundly in the hammock, and quietly left without a sound. When the landowner returned after taking Don home, Han suddenly remembered her child. She rushed back into the house, her heart pounding. All she could see was the hammock swaying gently in the wind, but little Tom had vanished. Han was stunned to realize that little Tom was no longer in the house. All she saw was her son's small hat lying haphazardly on the ground. With trembling hands, she picked up the hat, her heart aching. She called out her son's name in despair, her voice hoarse in the silent space. "Tom, where are you?" Without thinking, Han rushed outside, running and crying, asking everyone she met. She wandered everywhere, searching for Tom in desperation. Meanwhile, Thon, having finished cutting bamboo for the shelter, hurried back to Han's house. But upon arriving, he was stunned to find the house silent and empty. He called out repeatedly, but no one answered, and an indescribable feeling of unease welled up inside him. Just then, the first raindrops began to fall. Then, the rain intensified. The strong wind made the bamboo grove in front of the house sway. Han stood in the pouring rain, a premonition of something terrible happening. After a series of unfortunate events, everything seemed shrouded in a heavy sense of unease. Dan, having fallen ill from the fall into the lake the day before, had been bedridden for days and couldn't visit Han. His boss and his wife called to inquire about his health and Han's situation. But Dan was also confused, as he hadn't seen Han since the incident. Hearing Dan's words, his boss began to feel uneasy, and usually visited his boss's wife, Mrs. Kwa, sometimes bringing vegetables, sometimes helping with cooking. But for the past few days, Han had been nowhere to be seen. Sensing something was wrong, he quickly put on his raincoat and rushed out to look for her. As for Han, after wandering everywhere, searching for her child in the rain and wind, exhausted, she collapsed by the roadside and fainted. Fortunately, a kind old woman passing by saw what had happened and called for help, taking Han home to care for her. When she regained consciousness and looked around the unfamiliar house, Han jumped up in shock, her heart pounding. Remembering that her son was still missing, she burst into tears in panic, repeatedly calling out Tom's name. Han clutched the old woman's hand, sobbing as she recounted that her 0-month-old son had disappeared, possibly kidnapped. Hearing this, the old woman was also shocked, quickly comforting Han and promising to help inform everyone in the village. Han, however, continued to cry, her mind filled with only one thought. She had to find her son at all costs. Han wiped away her tears and left the old woman's house to continue searching for her child. She ran, asking everyone she met for help. Elsewhere, Dan, though still weak, tried his best to search for Han with his colleagues, asking every house and every person if anyone had seen the mother and child. On a muddy village road after the rain, Han unexpectedly met Dan's boss, who was also searching for her. Upon seeing him, Han burst into tears, frantically recounting that she had left baby Tom sleeping in the hammock, and when she returned, he was gone. Hearing this, Dan immediately understood the seriousness of the situation. He reassured Han, advised her to stay calm, and took her to his house to rest and regain her strength. His wife, Mrs. Koa, stayed by her side, offering warm water and porridge, comforting her and urging her to be strong so she could continue searching for her child. Soon after, with the help of the police, the search was expanded. From Han's account and the accounts of witnesses in the area, people gradually narrowed down the suspects. Finally, they discovered Han's ex-husband, Hoang, an alcoholic who had been violent towards his wife and children, had recently been released from prison, and showed many suspicious signs. Suspecting Hoang was the kidnapper, Han led the police and others to the old house where she used to live with him. When the door opened, Han's heart stopped. Little Tom was there, in Hoang's arms, with his grandmother beside them. Seeing her son, Han rushed to hug him tightly, sobbing with joy and sorrow. Hoang, stunned to see the police and everyone standing outside the door, realized his actions had been discovered. The tense confrontation between the painful past and the tearful present officially began. The atmosphere in the old house immediately became tense and suffocating. As soon as Han rushed to hug her child, Hoang snarled, holding onto little Tom tightly, loudly declaring that he was his son, that he had the right to raise him, and that no one was allowed to take him away. Han trembled but still stood in front of her child, tears streaming down her face. She choked out that Hoang had once been drunk, beaten his wife and child, and abandoned them in hardship. Such a person was unworthy of being a father, and even less qualified to raise Tom. The pent-up resentment made Han's voice both pained and resolute. Hoang, enraged, slammed his hand on the table, intending to snatch the child back. Tom's grandmother, standing beside him, wept and tried to restrain him, fearing things would spiral out of control. Just then, the police approached, urging Hoang to calm down and explaining that taking the child away without permission was illegal and could lead to criminal prosecution if he continued to resist. In the presence of the police, and with the intervention of his boss Dan, Uncle Kwa, and other family members, Hoang gradually backed down. Finally, he let go, allowing Han to hold Tom in her arms. Little Tom, frightened, clung tightly to his mother's neck, sobbing uncontrollably, while Han wept silently, holding her child as if afraid that if she let go for even a second, he would disappear again. To ensure their safety, everyone decided to take the mother and child to stay temporarily at Uncle Qua's house. There, Han was cared for and rested, while little Tom was always kept in her loving embrace, away from the turbulent days they had just experienced. That night in Uncle Koa's small house, Han slept with her child in her arms, tears still soaking her pillow. But this time, those were tears of survival, of hope after a nightmare that seemed inescapable. Despite being warned, Hoang refused to give up. He continued to drown his sorrows in alcohol, staggering around aimlessly. Late in the afternoon, Hoang stopped at Miss Men's shop to buy more liquor. As soon as she saw him, Miss Men had a premonition that something bad was about to happen. When Hoang left, she quickly informed the nearby patrol team that Han's ex-husband had appeared in the area. At that moment, Don was on patrol with another officer. Hearing the news, Don immediately thought of Han and the newly renovated house. He worried that in his drunken state, Hoang would return to cause trouble as before. Without hesitation, Dan and his colleague quickly headed towards Han's house. Just as Dan predicted, in his drunken stupor, Hoang stood in front of Han's house, shouting and cursing, kicking the door, knocking over furniture, and yelling venomous words. Meanwhile, Thon was nearby finishing up the remaining repairs for Han. Hearing the shouting, he hid behind the house, observing, and was stunned to realize that the troublemaker was the same person who had wrongly accused him before. Overwhelmed with anger, Than couldn't control himself and rushed out to confront Hoang, trying to stop him from causing further damage. The two struggled fiercely in the yard. Hoang, in his drunken rage, was aggressive, while Thon was determined to protect Han's house. Just as the situation became dangerous, Don and his accomplice arrived. Seeing the fight, they immediately intervened, subduing Hoang, throwing him to the ground, and handcuffing him. Hoang continued to yell in his drunken state, but everything was now under control. Neighbors gathered to watch, all breathing a sigh of relief that the last danger had been averted. Thon and Dan looked at each other, not saying much, but both understood. From now on, Han and little Tom could live peacefully without the ghost of the past.